So next up, our following speaker is Peter Groves of UIUC, who also has given a video talk here. Let's get that going.
Hi, I'm Peter Groves. I'm a research software engineer at NCSA, and today I'm going to be talking about Clowder for data management and quality control. This is relative to a project we're doing with MRI images with Ryan Dilger's lab in animal sciences. And his lab has a long-term focus on studying the effects of nutrition on brain development using pig models. And then they use MRIs to track the progress of their developing brains. And what that basically means is they feed pigs different diets from a very young age and take MRIs every few weeks and look for differences between the different cohorts. So the larger project that we're doing this Clowder work is part of is largely around automating the process to go from raw MRI images to final calculations of how big the different brain regions are. Currently, there's a 10-step process where the students have to download the raw data, open it up in various desktop software applications to do individual transforms. They have to make sure to do it very consistently. And so just automating that will be a big win for them. Clowder is going to be used for a few things. It's going to run the pipeline, this new pipeline itself as an extractor. That's going to add a lot of consistency to the data management. Currently, they're just trying to keep track of data through file name conventions. This is going to get all of their both raw images and the outputs of the pipelines all in one place. The first use case that's going to support is this idea of a quality control dashboard. Just a lot of things happen between the pig going into the MRI machine and having these final computations of how big the different brain regions are. So just being able to get one single place to look where they can see if everything is within a reasonable range. They have benchmarks, a benchmark in particular called the Pig Brain Atlas that they've developed that gives you an expected range for every brain region at every stage of development. So that's what we see here on this slide. Just are things within a reasonable range? And then the second thing that they need to look at is the final cleaned up MRI image to see if it's rotated and scaled and centered correctly. This is also something that they can really just glance at. They know right away if this is right or not. They just need to be able to get to the information and have it all in one place. So this previewer that you're seeing, this is something we did on this project to integrate an open source library. It's a JavaScript library that can display this nifty file format, which is the file format we use throughout the pipeline. Just last week, I submitted a pull request to get this viewer into the Clowder core. And this is sort of a simple thing, but it actually is a huge help to them as their current process. If they want to look at an individual file, they have to download it off of the shared drive on the workstation in the lab, pull it down to their laptop, open it in a desktop application, and then they can see it. So being able to just go from the quality control dashboard, and if there is a problem, being able to drill in and just kind of browse the data set from within the browser just takes a lot of operational friction off of this. And for future work, Clowder is going to have a big role in a machine learning project that's upcoming. There is still one manual step in all of this, which is that after the MRI images are cleaned up, a student has to go in and trace all of the brain regions so that the final calculation of how large those brain regions are can be done. It's a very natural use case for machine learning. And also they've been hand drawing these masks for years now. So they have a lot of data. And Clowder is getting this all into one place. And right now it would be possible to collect all of this data, but it wouldn't really be very practical because the data is laid out very much in the way that it was collected, one experiment at a time. So getting everything into Clowder is really going to be a big help into doing this just in 1 or 2 queries. We should be able to pull down all of the data we need across all of the different experiments and projects. Also, we're going to pull in a new collaborator, someone from computer science, probably a computer science student, and if they can just interact with Clowder and not have to look at anything related to the collection or cleanup, that should keep that project very simple. And I would say that that's maybe one of the biggest advantages to a system like Clowder that we see, is to just being able to decouple that collection and cleanup from the future analyses, because you also don't even know what those future analyses might be. And with that, I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I think one of the great things about hearing from all of these project talks is learning all the different ways that Clowder is being used. I would never have imagined pig brains to be relevant to it, but that was a great overview. I do see one question in the chat. Lisa, did you want to read that out?
Absolutely. Peter, is the plan to have the machine learning classifier run as an extractor?
Yes, I had started typing this out. The long term would be yes, that we would, because we've got, the other steps are as extractors. I'm not sure if we would integrate it into the extractor that's already there or make it a new step. But yes, this is long term. We're going to figure out how to get a workflow going where a student maybe works in like a Jupyter notebook or something to develop the model, and then we'll get it back in almost certainly as an extractor.
And the next question is, roughly how much data do you think will the project accumulate over time?
Oh, that's a good question. And I feel like somebody told me an answer. I'm going to say in the terabytes, maybe I'm going to eyeball 2 terabytes a year for 5 years, something like that.
I see a question from Anna.
Peter, first, thank you. And I'm still not sure if Clowder is used as a data storage for the data collected throughout the experiment process, or mainly as an extractor, previewer, and a facilitator of running machine learning algorithms. Put differently, is Clowder used as a data storage facility, or data is typically stored elsewhere but ingested into Clowder for pre-processing, analysis, annotation, and running machine learning?
Yes, great question. That all details that got cut because it was a lightning talk, but since you asked, I get to now tell you all of it. So in this particular situation, the MRI instrument is at a different unit on campus. They have their own data storage and server where you just basically it's just file management of these. It's called XNAT if you're familiar. That is not permanent storage. We have to pull that data, and every couple of years that the MRI system runs out of disk space, and they go through and delete everybody's old data, whether you want them to or not. So Clowder is becoming the long-term storage, but it's not the, I would say, first step of the storage. We have months, a several month window to pull data, run our extractors, but then it becomes more permanent. On this particular project right now, we have it set up so that we're running the machine, the server that runs Clowder is at NCSA, but it's all getting stored to an S3 bucket on AWS. Partially because of that whole, how much data is this really going to be? We don't know. Also S3. I like S3 because I feel like it's just kind of done once it gets to S3. I don't worry about it once it's there. I also am I was thinking about doing something that Syngenta talked about yesterday. I didn't realize somebody had already done it, where once data gets old, have it automatically roll into a cheaper long-term storage tier like Glacier. So that's all on the table. I don't know if we're going to get to that under this current round of funding, but so in a lot of ways, to answer your question, originally we were imagining that it would not be the long-term storage, that it would just be this layer that runs previewers and extractors. But there is this other part that, since we're going to put it into S3, it's going to turn into our own long-term archive as well.
Thank you so much, Peter. If folks have questions that come up for Peter, I would encourage you to continue to share them in the chat. I think that's great that you heard something from Syngenta yesterday that was relevant for your work. I think that's really a big part of why we're working to build this sort of integrated Clowder community and help build off of each other's strengths. So thank you again for a great talk.